Sky Mobile sponsors the transfer window on Sky Sports News.
I think we'll start with the transfers, though, don't you? A day of frenzied developments and the promise of more deals to surely come. Most of the papers are splashing on the deal that might take Chelsea past £1 billion of spending in a year since Todd Boehly and the Clearlake Capital took charge. Cole Palmer from Manchester City. Where are we at with this? Because a couple of the papers have different takes, closing in on a deal, and the Times, I think, have gone slightly stronger, David Ornstein. They're saying that that deal is now done. Where are we?
Yeah, that's the Tom Roddy report in the Times. We're also reporting on The Athletic and a number of other publications as well that an agreement has been reached between Chelsea and Manchester City for Cole Palmer to move to Stamford Bridge, 21-year-old star of England's Euros under-21 campaign. The last I heard, he was expected to undergo a medical tomorrow morning. A fee, as I was told, around 40 to 45 million pounds. It's really come out of the blue, hasn't it? But I think maybe Chelsea had their eye on him for quite some time. Bit of a surprise, given that he made a good impression in pre-season, in the Community Shield, and at the start of the Premier League campaign, also for Manchester City, a product of their youth academy, who I understand was actually close to leaving the club and not being offered a contract at the age of 16. But Jason Wilcox, who was head of the academy at the time, defied a bit of resistance to give it to him. During the COVID lockdown period, he recommended he sent a group of young players over to train with the first team. Cole Palmer, he pushed to be among one of them, and Pep Guardiola fell in love with him. Of course, Joe Shields knows him well, who's now at Chelsea. That famed Manchester City recruitment operation of Shields and Sam Fagbemi and others who have done so well. And now it looks like Manchester City are going to be selling another player in this window, raising more huge profit, and Chelsea another signing as well to add to their many transfers that they've made under this new ownership.
John, he certainly fits the Chelsea bill. He's young, he's got an incredibly high ceiling. You would feel, surely, that some City fans might be a bit miffed that Cole Palmer's leaving them for a rival.
Well, there was this quirky quote, wasn't there, from Pep Guardiola a couple of weeks ago, where he said, I'm not going to loan Cole Palmer out again. He's either going to play or be sold. And he's clearly decided to look at the latter, really. I think City are in a bit of a strange place, aren't they, at the moment? Because, they've just won the treble. They've made a fabulous start to the season, but they did lose experience in Gundogan, and Mahrez has gone as well. And I just feel as if maybe they're thinking, can we offer him the games that he clearly wants to kind of make a quick progression? I think he's an outstanding player, by the way, just like David. I think he's a terrific player, front-running midfield player, opens up gaps, creates chances, gets into goal-scoring opportunities. I think he's a great coup for Chelsea to get it done. It does raise a question for me, what now for Conor Gallagher? But I do know, obviously City fans, every club's fans, do like a homegrown player, don't they? And one off the academy ranks. And so I do think you're right. Then basically a few City fans will be thinking, oh, what next? But I do feel as if City are probably looking for a little bit more experience, maybe a sort of kind of a player a little bit further down the line to kind of really improve that midfield. I guess that's where their interest in Núñez and sort of kind of Wolves has come in, hasn't it? Sort of kind of thing. And maybe you just have to balance. And even for a team like City, you've still got to sort of pay close attention to kind of, balancing the books, getting the finances right and getting sort of their budgets right. And they've been spot on the last few years. So, it's an interesting one. And I do think Pochettino, just because of his love of homegrown players, exciting young players, I do think he'll relish working with Cole Palmer.
Yeah, John, that takes us on to the back page of the Telegraph. Manchester City to sign Wolves' Matheus Nunes, £50 million. So the Cole Palmer money will, in effect, cover that one. But there's a make-weight in this deal. City youngster Tommy Doyle going in a different direction. How key was his involvement to get that deal over the line?
Well, I do think Wolves have got issues, haven't they? They're basically trying to run a football club while the owner has been very clear in saying that basically in January we pushed it to the limit, and they did have to sell, and I'm sure that would have been an attractive proposition. As soon as Núñez makes it clear he wants to go, City are after your player. Then as soon as it hits that sort of target, but Wolves just need that little bit of strength. And so I do think that make way, if they're convinced in the player that he can become a Premier League, starter regular for them, which I'm sure that they do, in taking him, then basically it has to be one that they consider purely from a financial point of view.
Yeah, certainly. David, we'll focus on you because I know some breaking news from your publication, a couple of others touching on it. The Barcelona youngster Ansu Fati, one of the most exciting talents across all of Europe, being linked with a move to the Premier League.
Yeah, and surprisingly, he is on his way to Brighton, as we understand it tonight, because they are close to an agreement to take him on a straight loan deal from Barcelona until the end of the season, not an obligation or option to buy. I guess it relates to Barcelona's financial position and Ansu Fati being among a number of players that they're looking to move on in order to register existing players that they haven't been able to do so to date. Tottenham were heavily linked with him in recent days, and I think they were offered the opportunity and had been considering it. But another one out of the blue, Brighton have come forward, and we're hearing that he is scheduled to travel by plane to the UK tomorrow to complete this proposed deal. So developing very rapidly, and it's not at the end yet. Brighton need to try and close it out. But what a remarkable recruit that would be if it gets done and dusted.
It would, and with full respect to Brighton, you would imagine that it would be clubs higher up the table that would be in for Ansu Fati. David, just another story that I know you've been focusing on with The Athletic. Liverpool in talks with Bayern Munich over their midfielder Ryan Gravenberch. You think of the players that they've moved on and the age profile that Liverpool have moved on. This would completely change their midfield from last season to now.
Yeah, and a big contrast from the signing of Endo, who's 30 years old, down to Ryan Gravenberch, if it happens, at 21 years old. And this would be the culmination of a lengthy pursuit. I remember, I think the story was broken by our colleague Jonathan Northcroft in the Sunday Times back in April that Liverpool was stepping up this hunt, and some of their executives were dispatched, I think it was to Amsterdam, to hold talks with his representatives. There have been moments where it's looked like it might happen, and then it's gone quiet again. Other clubs have been interested too. He's on Manchester United's list. They've been considering him as well, but I think that may have needed to involve a swap with Scott McTominay. It's not happening, and they're focusing more on Sofyan Amrabat from Fiorentina on loan. And Liverpool have stepped forward. I think there were some discussions over the weekend, but Bayern Munich was sort of insinuating that he's not for sale. But then today, there's been some progress, some club-to-club negotiations. They've been throwing around figures, discussing their respective valuations. And if it gets to the point where Liverpool feel that the finances are affordable, then I think they're going to make a formal offer and try and bring him in. As I understand it, Jurgen Klopp is very keen to sign Ryan Gravenberch, who's barely played since joining Bayern Munich from Ajax just a year ago. It's not done yet, but there are some significant developments now. They are in negotiations. And you would suspect that by the time the window shuts, Liverpool would like to have got this deal done. But it will involve a replacement needing to come in at Bayern Munich. And we think they want João Paulinho from Fulham. Some dialogue has taken place, but an offer is yet to be received, Fulham say. They don't want to sell him. They would need a replacement of their own. So this probably has some way to run. But yeah, Liverpool have made their move.
Yeah, and Paulinho still has a good few years left on his contract, so there would be some negotiations there. If the Gravenberch to Liverpool deal goes through, John, that then seemingly pushes Manchester United down a route towards Sofyan Amrabat. Where would he have been on their list of priorities earlier in the summer?
Oh, well, I think Amrabat was of interest earlier in the summer. And I do think that, he has been a long-standing target. And actually, I think there's sort of a few Man United fans really getting annoyed and upset, not particularly with the prospect of signing the player, but the fact that it's, here we are, a player who they sort of kind of clearly wanted 6, maybe even 8 weeks ago. Outstanding player at the World Cup, let's not forget that. So, they were trying to firstly sort of kind of maybe get him around the 25-30 million pound mark, which in the current market, I think if you saw his performances in the World Cup, then I think you'd think he was a very, good piece of business. And now we're talking about much more about perhaps a last minute loan. because United just haven't been able to move on the likes of Harry Maguire to sort of kind of balance the books. You know, they're eagerly watching every transfer, every bit of transfer business. They still want a left back on loan to with FFP very much in their mind, really. So I think there's a deal of frustration from United fans simply because they're thinking, why couldn't we have got this player earlier? Bedded him in. Why are you leaving it until the very last minute to kind of balance up a squad, which frankly, I think in the game so far this season, it's been obvious that they've needed another kind of number six, sort of kind of anchor player to play alongside and kind of really balance out Casemiro, who's struggled at times at the start of this season. But I think he'll end up being a good signing if they can get this one over the line. But United fans will be thinking, why on earth couldn't you have done it 6 weeks ago?
Well, that's City, it's Chelsea, it's Liverpool, it's Manchester United. It looks like they're going to go right down to the wire with transfer deadline day coming on Friday.